Good morning, exiles, or as I like to call it, 2 p.m. I just woke up, I want to say about an hour ago, and I wanted to share with you guys a lot that we learned yesterday. We streamed 16 hours yesterday. It was a long one. It was actually incredible. Thank you, everyone that showed up. It was so heartwarming seeing everyone coming in, just gifting subs and just being so excited about the game, and then sitting there while the servers were on fire for a couple hours before we got in. But early impressions is I really like this game. It's awesome. There are some pretty noticeable tuning issues with the drop rates of some currency and how strong your character feels and all that. But besides that, I see this as an incredible foundation for a beautiful game that we can play for many years. I think it's, overall impression is going to be a great game. But what I want to share with you guys today, I actually wrote it on my phone while I was making my coffee this morning. Some tips and tricks that I think will be really huge for making your campaign so much better. And I know this because I was not doing many of these things early on, or I struggled to, reach where I wanted to with some of these things early on. And once I put a little bit of effort in to getting around this, it made a night and day difference in how my character felt. So the first, and I think basically most important thing that you can easily overlook is to salvage as much as possible to get sockets in your gear. So almost everything that we're going to talk about right now is about just making your gear. It's an ARPG. You need better gear to get through the campaign easier, to play the game. That's how you upgrade your character, right? So you might notice that all of my gear has sockets in it. And with the sockets, what you get is once there's a socket in an item, you can put in a rune. So in Path of Exile 1, you might be used to trying to get as much resistance as possible by using a crafting bench to craft on res on your gear. Or crafting gear in general in Path of Exile, there's a lot more currency, at least in my experience. Much easier to craft gear and get that res, buy gear that has res on it. I was struggling even as late as 12 hours into the game. I had all negative resistances. I was level 40, all negative res. And then someone in chat was like, just salvage socketed gear. This is where we're going. Salvage socketed gear, and then you get Artificer's Orbs, which allow you to put sockets in your gear. So currently, unfortunately, I have no Artificer's Orbs, but I do have Artificer's Shards right here. And I'll show you where you can do this. So the first time that you'll see it, I actually don't know if there's one in Act 3, but in Act 2, I actually forget if you can unlock this through a quest or not, but as you're going through Act 2, you will get this salvage bench, and this is the key right here. So this salvage bench right here, I believe there's one in every single act. Forgive me, this is first thing in the morning. I just want to get you guys these tips ASAP. Find a salvage bench. I know there's one right here in Act 2, and what you want to do is pick up gear that has sockets in it and just click on it. Also, gear that has quality, you will get quality currency, so you can upgrade the defensive stats, more evasion, more armor, more energy shield, if you quality up your gear. I'm not really focusing on that because I have very low defenses on my character. However, if you unlock the Artificer Shards, you can then add a socket to your gear, which allows you to put a rune in and put res on. So that has brought me from, I had all negative res, a couple hours ago in playtime, and just putting those sockets on the gear, now I have not great res, but pretty good res, and I am taking like half the damage that I was taking before. Makes an absolute night and day difference. So that's tip number one. Night and day. Number one thing is, every gear that has a socket on it, when it drops on the ground, you will see it. It'll have a little white dot on the, the little tile that shows the item on the ground. If you see that white dot, pick it up and go to the salvage bench. Boom, boom, boom. And then you get those Artificer's Orbs. Every single armor slot, you can put in a rune, and you want to put that in. Next up is what you want to do with blues and rares. You want to pick up and bring back to town basically every single blue and yellow item that you can, because that is going to be the foundation for you to be able to craft your gear or buy new gear. So gold kind of doesn't drop very much. So you'll notice that you can buy items from vendors. And the next tip is check the vendors as often as possible. So these two kind of go together. So the vendors, very few items drop. I am at least like halfway through Act 3, maybe a little bit further. And I have noticed that very few items drop. And most of them are not going to work for my character. So what you want to do is bring them back to town, particularly early on, and you have these two options. You can buy and sell items. Let me move the camera somewhere not in the way. So you can buy or sell items or disenchant items from a vendor. And well, one vendor can disenchant, most can buy or sell. And disenchanting, what it does is a blue item will disenchant to a transmutation shard, which will stack up and give you a transmutation orb. And then a rare item or a yellow item will disenchant to a regal orb. And these are the most important. Will turn a magic item into a rare item, which will allow it to have 3 up to 6 stats. And that's the best way that you can start getting better items. And then you can use an exalted orb to add more stats to a rare item. So you start off, you have a white item, you can use a transmute on it to make it magic, use an augment to make it have 2 stats, and then you can use a regal to make it have 3 stats, and then exalts to make it bring up to 6 stats. So that's why I have items that have 6 stats here, is because like many of these I crafted myself. Like this one right here, it had, I picked up a pair of gloves that just had max life on it. It was white. I used an augment on it. So I ended up with crappy stuff on it. I used an augment. I got attribute requirements, I think, because you can have 1 prefix and 1 suffix. And then I regaled it and I got max mana, which not good, but that's how I can get more stats. And now when I get exalted orbs, I'm going to use those exalts to try to get up to 6 stats on these gloves. Hopefully I can get some resistances, ideally, and get some more defensive characteristics on these gloves. So that's the idea. That's like kind of the crafting cadence that you want to get. So you want to be looking for blue items that have 1 or 2 good stats, then regal and exalt, and just try to add more stats that are useful for your character. So where I was going with this is gold, very, very little gold drops on the ground, much to my chagrin. And things, you'll notice I'm like level 40, I'm halfway through Act 3. I have spent gold, but I have not as much as I would like. And individual things that you buy from the vendor, like this random rare is 5,000 gold almost. And that is almost half of my total gold for just one item. Respecking a single passive point right now costs me about 1,000 gold. So I can only move around 11 points right now, and then I'm all out of gold again. And not that much gold drops on the ground. The gold that you're going to get is primarily from selling blue items. That's most of the gold that I've gotten so far. I am seeing bigger stacks of gold, like 200 to 300 dropping now, but not that often. So what you want to do is transmutation orbs, you can get a lot of them. So I actually am sitting on 20 transmutes and 31 augments, and that is enough. So once you have enough transmutes, you actually want to sell your magic items instead of disenchant them. So you want to start off by disenchanting to have enough transmutes to take white bases. So if you find a good white base, so I have these couple ones here. So also jewelry is very rare. So if you see any white amulet or ring that has a good implicit right here, like the implicit modifier is the elemental res or cast speed right here. If I want to start crafting on this, if I get a regal orb, for example, I want to transmute this and then I want to augment it, have 2 stats, and then regal. And so I have these crafting bases that I have saved for later once I have the currency to craft with. Even better is if you can get an alchemy orb. I am level 41. I have found 1 alchemy orb the entire time. Also total, I found 2 regals, 1 alchemy, and 4 exalts total. I feel like this is something that they are going to tune that is not properly tuned versus how they set expectations going into this. So, hold your horses on that one. So that's the basic idea there is you want to get enough transmutes. I'm sitting on 20 now, so I definitely don't need more. Every single blue item that I pick up, I always sell. Every single rare, no matter what, you always, because regals are super, super rare, every rare item, you always, always, always want to disenchant it. At least early on, later on that might change. Because being able to turn your magic items, just getting an additional stat on a base that has 2 good stats on it already is how you're going to start upgrading your character. So that is my second, that's like second and third tips together right there. Next one is check your vendors often. I don't exactly know how vendors refresh in Path of Exile 2. In PoE 1, they will refresh. They've changed it a few times over the past couple years, but generally every time you level up, some of the inventory on a vendor will refresh. With that, be careful because you can level up and you can actually lose something that you're waiting for. So, check the vendors very often. Come back here, say, hey, I want this item. I need more gold. Farm up the gold. If it works like PoE 1, actually be careful about leveling up. You might want to go to a lower level zone and farm that area instead of a higher level zone because you don't want to risk leveling up and losing the item from the vendor inventory. In addition to that, there is a stat. I don't have any right now, but there is a stat called increased rarity of items dropped. And because items drop so rarely, because the rarity of those items drop is so low, I believe is probably one of the most valuable stats that you can get on your gear. So, stuff like life and resistances, those are your base, hey, make me stay alive stats. But next to that, I actually very much value and I'm looking for increased rarity because, you know, more rarity, it makes the white items turn blue, the blue items will turn rare, and better rarity for the drops will give you more regals. Everything just gets better when higher rarity items drop. So if you can get rarity on your gear, strongly recommend that. I've been trying to, it's been a struggle. I found like 2 items that have rarity, but I just couldn't use them. So yeah, definitely recommend doing that. Let's see, next up, get movement speed boots any way you can. If you played Path of Exile 1, you know the most valuable stat that you can get in the game when going through the campaign, period. This is like, everyone just knows it, is movement speed. I did not have any movement speed boots until I think most of the way through Act 2. And going from 0% movement to 15% movement is night and day. So, I mean, I don't know if I can demonstrate this very easily, but this is my 15% movement speed. And then I should have people coming in chat like, how are you so fast? And this is 0%. Like, okay, I think it's pretty noticeable, right? This is 0%, and then this is just 15%. And it feels so much smoother. In PoE 1, you can get up to, you can actually get like 42% movement speed on your boots with a conditional mod. But yeah, generally in PoE 1, you want to get like, the baseline is like 30% movement speed to like feel okay. And just 15% feels pretty decent right now. And I'm on the lookout for 20 or even 25% ASAP. So yeah, most important thing, what I would recommend, like, unfortunately, you could get stuck where you find a really good pair of boots that has everything, like amazing life, amazing res, but no movement speed. That can suck. I would actually, like, I would almost purposely not pick up those boots or just disenchant them, because you could get pigeonholed. Like, you could have great stat, like, you know, hey, I got some intelligence and strength and dex on these boots, and I actually can't take them off because I need it for my stats. I would actually hold off on doing that because it could pigeonhole you into wearing a pair of boots that don't have movement speed, and that is one of the worst feelings. So I just don't recommend that. Do everything you can. Pick up white pairs of boots, transmute and augment them until you find movement speed. And I believe that's how I actually got these boots. So I just was picking up white pairs of boots, transmuting every single white pair of boots that I could until I got a movement speed stat. And then I regaled it and I exalted it, and that's how I got a bunch of crappy stats on it. Although reduced freeze duration is kind of nice. Yeah, a bunch of like mid stats on this that I don't really care about, but that movement speed is critical to just, you know, if anything, defensively as well. Like being able to get away from the monsters more quickly, you know, just everything feels better. So yeah, huge priority. I would say almost higher priority. Like actually, I would say definitely higher priority than PoE 1 because we don't have spammable movement skills like in PoE 1 where you can leap slam, frostblink, you know, flying around even without movement speed. Can't do that in this game. So that movement speed is even more important in this game, in my opinion. Next up, flasks and charms. So flasks and charms in this game can have stats on them. So I actually just upgraded my flask this morning. That was one of the things that was really holding me back. So your flasks are your sustain. They are what keep you alive. They are so critical. I mean, if you've been playing at all, you know this already, but flasks can be crafted on. I recommend picking up white flasks as much as possible. The higher tier flasks that you can, check the vendors. Vendors will also sell flasks, and look at the vendors for roles that you care about, or even, you know, maybe picking up a white flask and then crafting on it, transmute and augment. They can only be magic. They can't go to rare, so you can't regal them. But, you know, the value that you get from going from a 300 life flask to a 1,000 life flask. Like, I actually went from 400 to 1,000. My last flask was much worse. And, you know, night and day. This will overfill. I mean, it stops at the max, but this has more recovery on it than my entire life pool. It also has a lot of charges. You actually want to look for increased charges. This just gives you more uses before it runs out. Really important. Same thing with the mana flask. Gigantic value for your defense on your character. I'm using my flasks and relying on them way more than I did in PoE 1 throughout the campaign. There is an additional set on flasks, which is really nice, which is this one right here. Gain flask charges per second. At least at my level, it's very low, 0.2 charges per second. So it takes 5 seconds to gain 1 charge. So it's going to take 50 seconds. It takes 10 charges to use it once. So it's going to take 50 seconds to gain a use. But in these long fights, these fights can take really long. Every single minute, you know, a little bit less than every minute, you're going to get an additional use of your flask. So if we're talking a 3 or 4 minute boss fight, we're talking 3 or 4 more uses of your flasks. And that can make a very big difference. You know, that's 3 or 4 more entire life pools on your character. This stat, while it looks like, oh, only 0.2 per second, it's actually really good. And a thing that I did yesterday is I was between zones, and between zones in the trial that I had to do. And the trial, when you're doing the Ascendancy trial, it doesn't refill your flask between zones. Can't leave the zone. So what I did is I just went to the bathroom, grabbed some water, came back, and my flask was halfway filled. You know, I just took a few minute break, and my flask was already halfway back up. And you can do that. You can just walk away, and you can passively get charges. So this is a very good stat to go for as well, if you see that on your flask. In addition, I also do recommend and value chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy. This will allow you to, you kill a pack of monsters, you can get a couple more charges, a lot more sustain while you're just kind of going through a zone. In addition to flasks are charms. So first up with the charms, your belt will give you charm slots. And what charms do is they will trigger when a condition happens. So this will trigger, and they also have charges similar to flasks. This will trigger when I take lightning damage from a hit. I actually don't know if I get that lightning res before I take the damage from the lightning. That's a thing that I just don't know about this game yet. This is a whole new mechanic to me. At the very least, if there's multi-hits coming in, most monsters will do like a bunch of cold damage on the ground, like a whole bunch of glass shards or a whole bunch of lightning all over the ground. No matter what, like this is really, really nice to just have this passive bonus to getting lightning res when you take a hit. I have charms for all sorts of different things. You do want to be on the lookout for additional charm slots on your belt. And then I can have one for cold res, lightning res, fire res. You can also craft these, so definitely make sure you craft them so they have stats on them that you care about. Value your charms in your flask. They are huge for your defensive, your defensive sustain and just feeling good. All right, and last up, if you are struggling, take your time and level up. So check your level versus the zone level. This is a thing that you just gotta always remind yourself. Like the zone level will be in the upper left corner or upper right corner. It'll say, hey, you're in zone level 40, but your character, look down here, is level 32. That's probably unlikely to happen unless you're trying to push forward really, really hard. If you're a couple levels below the zone, take your time, do that, level up, try to get some more gear. It is going to be kind of slow. The pace here to go through the campaign and level up your character is on the slower side. And then in addition to that is getting your passive points. I actually did this morning. I saw that this morning at 2 p.m. I was actually missing 4 passive points from quests in the campaign, from like the little mini boss quests. So there are these icons here all over the map. And unfortunately, it's a little more subtle than I would like. But if you look at these 2 skulls, you'll notice that this one is glowing and this one is faded out. And so the faded ones means that I've already done it. The glowing one, or highlighted the default color on it, means that I haven't done it yet. So most of them kind of don't really do anything. I actually don't know what this icon means. There's like a little door on it, but I'll try to make this a little bit bigger here. I'm gonna take a screenshot and make this bigger for you guys so you can really see and how clear it is. There we go. Beautiful. So some of these things, these are like mini boss quests that are in that zone. And if you mouse over it, it'll tell you what zone to go to. So this says the Spires of Despair right there. And you'll notice that by doing this, my bonus was to get plus 10 permanent passive lightning resistance. I was actually missing this as well. This one, I got 2 weapon set skill passive points, which, you can also just your generic passive points as well. I'm not going to go into the detail about weapon set stuff. Yeah, hey, I'm feeling underpowered. Open up your map right here. Go through all of these. I don't know why the overworld map loads. That's kind of weird. But yeah, you'll see that these glowing ones right here. So this one doesn't have a plus sign on it, so I don't feel like it really matters. But the ones that have plus signs on them, they can give you passive points. They can give you permanent res, permanent spirits, stuff like that. Like you want to do this one to get your plus 30 spirits so you can get your first aura. A lot of people were asking me about that on stream yesterday. And yeah, just look at all of the glowing ones that have plus signs on them that you're missing. And that is absolutely critical to leveling up your character, just getting those passive bonuses, getting stronger. Go back and just look at every single one of these and make sure that you're not missing it. All right, quick-ish little tips and tricks video I wanted to help you guys with. I think we're all in a very big learning process right now, trying to understand the game. There's so much for us to pick up and understand and learn things, particularly for Path of Exile 1 players coming into this. There's a lot of little things about the pacing that we have to get used to and understand, take our time, make sure that we're hitting all of the points that are intended for upgrading our character and, just getting that player power so it feels a lot better. And we're not just like struggling, dodge rolling into monsters and dying and getting caught in corners. Not that I've ever done that. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for all of you guys being here. It's been so cool seeing y'all, particularly in chat yesterday. It was a cool stream. I'm going to take a shower and eat some breakfast, and then I'll go live. So lots more to learn. Going to share with you guys kind of my experience with my build and the stuff that I've done with that. As soon as I have it a little bit more well-rounded, the thoughts that I've learned there. I am playing a Chronomancer because, I'll go into that detail a little bit later. I am playing Chronomancer, and there's a couple things about it due to the way that this game works that I think is, I might have underestimated her a little bit. Not a lot. I still think she's probably C tier, but, possibly not F tier. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys soon. Plenty more videos coming up soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.